at a convention in Pittsburgh when Dawn of the Dead had just come out. And there was a guy there selling props from Dawn of the Dead. It was like a rubber hand for $1,000. I was like, I didn't have any fucking money. I was so bummed because it was like, you know, the zombie hands that were smashed in the Monroeville Mall doors and they would lock them in. You'd see the little blowtorch. All that stuff was there. And I just thought, oh, how cool would it be? But I was always just a fan, you know. I grew up, I don't know how many, it's hard to see, but a lot of you older people probably remember like Castle Films, where you would get the Super 8 digest, and it was like 8 minutes, and you would project it on a sheet on the wall, and you would watch Frankenstein and the Wolfman and Dracula.
Right.
I still have all of my movies, and you'd get to the very end, and then you'd put it in reverse, and you'd watch the creature jump out of the water and onto the boat. So I was like just obsessed with monsters, and I was so scared when I was a little kid. I would watch the scariest shit, and then I would be so afraid of having nightmares because my imagination was really crazy that I would like stay up I wouldn't sleep because I was afraid to go to sleep because I thought I was going to have really, really bad nightmares.
Right.
But I would just watch the worst, most scary things that you could remember, and then I just became fascinated. My parents were like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I was like, "I don't know. I just love it. I love being scared." But then I'd lay in bed like, you know, when I was little. Now I'm fine. Nothing scares me now.
So when you finally do get started, it was with Romero. It was Day of the Dead, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was your first project ever?
Yeah.
That's
well,
crazy.
no, actually, so here was the thing, you know, I was saying about George earlier. George is the kind of guy that's like, hey man, you know, you should come hang out or come work on the show or whatever. So when I met Tom, we got to be friends. They would shot Creepshow, and then Tom directed Inside the Closet for Tales from the Dark Side. And he made the little Lizzie puppet. And I remember him saying, yeah, we're shooting in New York. And I convinced my parents that we should go on a trip to New York for the weekend and spend a week there. And we did. They're like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. The only reason I wanted to go to New York is because Tom was filming and I wanted to go. So we get up there and I'm like, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm going to go to Long Island City. They're like, what? How do you even know where Long Island City is? You're just a fucking kid. But I went and hung out for like 3 or 4 days and I puppeteered on Lizzie and I helped Tom. So that was in June of '84. So that was the first time that I had ever been on a movie set and like looked around and like saw the cameras and the lights and the, you know, Fritz Weaver was in it, who was in Creepshow. So I was like, that's the guy from Creepshow. And then we went back to Pittsburgh, and then in July I went down to have lunch with George. And George is like, hey, we got a green light on Day of the Dead. Do you want a job? And I'm like, okay, I already said no for Creepshow 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So I'm not gonna say no. I'm like, yes, I'll take it. Then I drove home, called Savini and said, hey, I just got hired on Day of the Dead. I want to be your assistant. I mean, I didn't really know anything about practical makeup effects except stuff I'd read in Fangoria or Famous Monsters. And then I went to my parents and I said, hey, so I'm going to take a semester off school. I just put this medical school pre-med thing on hold for a little bit. And they were like, you gotta, you know, my parents were so smart about it because they basically said, you got a good head on your shoulders, you're not stupid. So if you want to take a semester off school, we'll just see where that takes you. And I was